Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.
Hey everybody, it's Anthony. We are so excited to bring you new episodes again, and believe me, the wait is well worth it. This episode was recorded last year, right before my personal life fell apart, unfortunately, but we are finally ready to bring you our DerpyCon panel on Discord from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. One thing I wanted to note is that the audio quality on this one is a little dicey at times because we were recording the ambient room noise, and there was a very noisy panel going on in the room next to us. So you might hear random crowd noises like cheering and stuff in the background. I did my best to try and clean them up, but kind of is what it is. Also, there's a Q&A session at the very end. And although Doc and I could hear the questions clearly when we were in the room, when I listened back to the recording, the people asking the questions were very muffled. So rather than make you try to strain your ears to listen, I just recorded myself asking the questions that we were asked, and then it cuts back to our answers. It's the best solution I could come up with. So go ahead, enjoy the episode, and I'll talk to you again at the end. Hello and welcome to Capes on the Couch at DerpyCon. My name is Anthony Sitko.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
So this is a panel on the equine essence of entropy himself, Discord from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. So before we get started on Discord, question you may be asking yourselves is, who are Capes on the Couch and who are these two people sitting in the front of the room and what makes them qualified or not qualified to talk about Discord and My Little Pony?
Yeah, I'll say it. So I'm a board-certified psychiatrist, but I'm not your psychiatrist. So you do not have to worry about me analyzing any of you. Actually, when I come to these things, I usually analyze myself because everybody seems to have more fun than me. But anyway, yeah, I am a practicing psychiatrist at a hospital. I actually worked today and then made enough time, so I came in early just for you. So please understand, if I sound infuriated or just plain old distracted, it has nothing to do with any of you guys. You're all amazing. I swear. It's just that I might be a little bit tired and probably need more caffeine, like a cup or 4.
So that is Doc Issues. It's not his real name, by the way, just in case you were curious.
Why'd you give it away? Come on.
So my name is Anthony Sitko. As you can see, I am a lifelong comic book aficionado, pop culture sponge. I'm an attorney, and I am best friends and brothers with this guy right here to my left. Yes, sir. So full disclosure, I am a baby brony, or at least I was back when that was like really a thing. I have some custom made My Little Pony cookie cutters that I got from Etsy. So I would consider that like the low level of the brony scale. And then there's maybe somebody here at the con who has like a DJ Pawn 3 tattoo or something like that. So like, you know, they're of like that higher stratus brony than me.
I apologize. All I did was watch the show.
Oh no. So a little bit more of a background on who we are and what our show is. We're a podcast that we've been around for about 6.5 years. And essentially what we do is we take largely comic book characters, but occasionally when we come out to these sorts of conventions, we expand our reach into manga, anime, pop culture, etc. And the essence of an episode is that we give a short background on the particular character that we're covering. And then Doc, with his knowledge and expertise, we discuss 3 issues that character has presented within the universe of the show. And we kind of break it down one by one and talk about what the issues are, how they present themselves within the universe, and how it impacts their daily life, so to speak, as it were. And the purpose of the show is to really destigmatize a lot of the discussions around mental health, because everybody here struggles with something, whether it's visible or invisible. Everybody has their thing that they're dealing with. And we don't certainly presume to judge or guess what that might be. But what we do is we discuss their topics with kind of like that distance and objectivity, so that when you're listening to these episodes, you go, hey, I kind of identify with this particular character, or I may know what this person is going through. And Doc is describing a treatment, or Doc is describing something that they deal with and how they're dealing with their issue, whether that's trauma or schizophrenia or whatever the case may be. And we use it to break down some of those barriers to treatment. And then after we discuss the issues, we get into what a treatment option would look like in universe, first for that particular character.
And it usually doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because when we're dealing in universe, we're kind of talking about in the world of My Little Pony, for example, where there's magic and ponies, etc. And then we bring it outside to out of universe to what a real person with these issues would deal with and what a treatment for a real live human being would look like for some of those treatment options. And then at the end, we always role play and envision what a therapy session with this character would sound like. So it's edutainment.
Spoiler alert. I'm not very good at this in skits.
Yeah, Doc has a tendency to not always necessarily survive some of the therapy sessions, depending on the characters. So we're going to go through that. And at the end, we'll have a little Q&A with you, the fans, and the fantastic folks that are here. So without any further ado, because we kind of rambled on long enough, let's give a little bit of an overview of Discord and who Discord really is as a character. So Discord, for My Little Pony, created by Lauren Faust and M.A. Larson, made his debut in the second season premiere episode, The Return of Harmony, Part 1, which debuted September 17th, 2011. He's a draconequus who embodies the spirit of chaos and disharmony. He was imprisoned in stone for a millennium by Princesses Celestia and Luna. He's essentially a child-friendly version of Q from Star Trek The Next Generation.
Yeah, I know I'm interrupting. How big a Star Trek fan are you?
Me? Not at all. I'm not a Trekker. I'm a Star Wars guy. Apologies.
I just wanted to get you to say that on record.
That's okay.
All right.
He's voiced by Q's actor John de Lancie, who really kind of took that role and just, injected himself into My Little Pony. So Discord broke free and he wreaked havoc on Equestria until the main 6 characters were able to use the elements of harmony to recapture him. And let's see, where do we go? Okay, if he could be turned, he could be a powerful ally. So he was released by Celestia in the hopes of having Fluttershy reform him. Full disclosure, by the way, Fluttershy is my personal favorite of the main 6, and I will not... Thank you, appreciate that, yes. I will not harbor any Fluttershy slander whatsoever in my presence.
In 2012, who's arguing about who's the best anymore? 2024, I mean.
I was like, 2012? Okay, well, are you a time traveler? That's impressive, Peacemaker. So although they do get off to a bit of a rocky start, they eventually become friends, and Fluttershy is the one pony that Discord truly cares about the most. So he may be a little better, but he's not fully reformed, at least in the beginning. So he continues to be a bit of a trickster, but the ponies come to kind of begrudgingly befriend him. He does betray the ponies when Lord Tirek asks him for assistance in stealing the ponies' magic, but after Fluttershy cries and Tirek steals Discord's magic, he realizes the error of his ways and he helped Twilight Sparkle defeat Tirek. His magic is restored and he fully reforms. I realize I'm kind of blowing through stuff, but I'm not here to summarize necessarily 9 seasons of the show for you. So when the main 6 are captured by the changelings, I forgot to mention, he joins the ponies on several adventures, though not without the occasional hiccup. When the main 6 are captured by changelings, he ignores the situation until he learns Fluttershy is in danger, and I captured that. Where? That is my favorite Discord moment from the entire series. Just Trixie's like, and he's captured all this and this one. He's like, I don't care about that. And Twilight and her friends, what? Fluttershy? There. Just full credit to John de Lancie as a voice actor for carrying that rage in his eyes and his voice. So at the end, all of season 9, he creates a false identity of Grogar and he allies with several villains, all in a very misguided attempt to boost Twilight Sparkle's confidence prior to her coronation. It backfires horribly, and the villains gain enough power to threaten the main 6 until he distracts them long enough for the main 6 to escape. Again, I know I'm glossing over a lot of stuff, but I really wanted to get into primarily the issues. So, as I said, we're going to break it down one by one. And so the first issue is pride. And as you see up here, we got the screenshot, and I was like, does this look like someone who thinks they can be beaten? This is Discord's number one Achilles heel, is he thinks he is so powerful and so strong that, you have the elements of harmony. That's all nice. Right, you're not going to do anything to me.
Let me just make this clear when I start off. I want to make sure that everybody in this room, and I do say this to the people I meet, including patients, you are a human being worthy of dignity and respect, always. Even if you don't feel like the world is giving it to you, even if the people around you aren't giving it to you, you are always worthy. That's where I want to start. Because it's one thing to say that you have a positive sense of self-worth. It's another thing to say that your positive sense of self-worth is more than anybody else's. And if you challenge a person on it, then it leads to conflict. That is the starting point for anyone that doesn't understand how to regulate their value compared to others. Is that something that we have to do on a daily basis? Guess what? Subconsciously, you always do. If you are saying hello to someone, you're making a contract. You're saying, hi, I am willing to talk to you in an effort to make sure that we both don't basically pose a threat. We're not trying to hurt each other. We're all trying to have a good time. We don't usually have to say all of those words. But if you have too much pride, you might say something that might indicate you're considering this to be a waste of your time. Hi. It's how you present yourself. It's what you say and how you say it, depending on the situation. So, someone like Discord makes it very clear. I will not suffer fools. I will only do things when I want to do them and how I want to do them. Okay, well, maybe other people have other ideas. That doesn't leave much room. So it's really hard to develop relationships that are going to be lasting if you are putting yourself on a pedestal and everybody else is a peon below you. That is kind of problematic. And imagine the types of transactions that you have to do when you just want something simply done and everybody already has developed the mindset that you're a jerk. That's not going to get much done unless you actually do have a position of power. And some people do. Unfortunately, it means that you're starting to develop relationships where people are equating the two. Your power means that all people are jerks that have power. People start to develop this idea. Now, you're doing projective identification. That's a really fancy way of saying, I'm putting some information out in the world. Everybody is taking that information and reacting to it, and it becomes its own bad feedback loop. So am I saying that having a good, self-ego is a bad thing? No. Am I saying using that to trounce everyone around you is? Yeah, I think that's kind of self-explanatory. I don't think I'm really saying anything that's super surprising to anyone right now.
No, but again, to your point, it's the way in which you present it. It's certainly nice and it is human to want the things that we want, right? Everybody has desires. Everybody has self-interest. Everybody has the things that they want to do. But you can't always have what you want all the time. And that's kind of one of the things that he says to Fluttershy in that first episode where he's trying to be reformed and he's basically creating chaos. And he's lording that over Fluttershy because he's like, you're not going to use the element of harmony against me. And then eventually when Fluttershy's like, that's it, I'm done. I'm not going to use the element of harmony against you, but I'm not going to be your friend anymore. And he's like, oh, I guess sometimes in order to make friends, you can't have everything that you want all the time. It humbles him a little bit. And that's I guess, the first crack in the armor, so to speak, for Discord. And it does eventually compile and compound over time. And the character development that he and obviously the rest of the characters exhibit over the 9 seasons of the show is absolutely astounding. And I think that's certainly one of the reasons why it's resonated as well as it did back when it first came out and continues to do so to this day, is because we see them develop as characters. It's not just the same thing week in, week out, episode after episode. Is they really develop and they humanize these characters. So Discord's learning to put that pride aside to some extent. He still has it here and there, and he's certainly not going to be afraid to use it to his advantage at times, but he does learn to kind of swallow it and suppress the ego just a titch, especially when it comes to the main 6 and in particular with Fluttershy. So moving on to the next issue, Troll. I think we can all agree that Discord is a troll of the highest order. That line is from one of the comics. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm going to do. It's strictly for his own amusement. And it kind of ties into what we were talking about first. But if he thinks it's funny, he's going to go ahead and do it. Doesn't really care what anybody else thinks.
Yeah.
And that's not really the way to operate with other people.
Yeah, there are different levels to trolling, and if you do a harmless prank or in your mind something that is considered harmless, usually people might even laugh along with you. The one target may think that it's offensive or negative, but even they may get over it, and that's understandable. It's okay to have a little spice in your life. It's okay to have variety. It's okay to mix things up and do the unexpected. Okay, that's actually a part of life. We know that things constantly change. It's another thing to ignore the reactions of people around you for the sake of your own emotions. If all you want to do is look at everyone as a target, that's problematic. If you have a worldview that the world is not a place meant to be shared by others in a way that can enrich us, and you think that the best thing is to just do things so random that you're sowing the seeds of discontent, yeah, I don't think you're going to end up interacting in any ways that's going to be helpful. And sometimes it's not even a matter of how the person views the world where it's illogical. It could be totally rational. It is true that there are some negative things that happen in the world and things are unfair. That doesn't necessarily mean you got to tip the scale even more by slamming your thumb on it time after time after time. That doesn't necessarily mean that because people can have suffering, people can have sadness, anger, and all the other emotions we know, that doesn't mean that you have to find what actually evokes the strongest negative emotion and do what you can to evoke that each time you see that particular person because you don't share that emotion. You can't read the room. And even if you do read the room, you basically say, going back to pride, that well, I enjoy it, therefore, it's got to be the most important thing. So, is it really that bad if you say something to your friend and in high school you comment on their nose or something like that? Is it really, really that bad? Is it?
If you do it once or twice, it's okay. When you sign in their yearbook with the jokes about the size of the schnoz, maybe then. When you sign it, hey, Toucan Sam, have a good summer. See you in the fall.
Yeah, and here's the thing. This is years ago. We went to high school together. This is years ago, and I didn't sign that. That wasn't me. I swear to you.
No, you didn't sign Toucan Sam. I think you signed Gonzo.
So we can laugh about it because we actually were processing in real time that we knew that was a safe joke to use, and he was confident in himself to know that it was kind of, because we made jokes about ourselves too. We were self-deprecating. We had the awareness to say, we're not perfect and neither are you. We're in this together. Discord doesn't do that. Everybody's on the other side. You can't join it. So that is where you end up creating a lot of pain for people. And I'm talking lighthearted right now because we're in a circle of people that I would like to consider friends, okay? But having said that, these types of emotions, if you feel like the world is actually a dangerous place or against you, then we actually end up with situations that are way more negative. This is some of the background as to why people sometimes isolate themselves because they don't think people understand how they got to this point. This is where people sometimes can act out in violence or anger because they don't think the world is fair, and this is the only way that they can prove their point. So I understand. I am going to keep it light in general, but I am a psychiatrist and I see a lot of negative things, including people in their darkest points, where they confide in me that when they have these thoughts, that's what's underneath all of it. And sometimes keeping it, quote unquote, keeping it light as mocking people or making fun of people is how they process it so that they don't do something worse. So that's the dark side to this, definitely. I'm glad that we're not at that point in society as a whole. It's not very common, but it does exist, and I at least want to acknowledge it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's one thing to have an inside joke with your friends and you needle them, you bust chops.
Yeah,
whatever.
they literally did an episode where that was the whole point of inside jokes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's one thing to have the inside jokes. It's another thing entirely to take those jokes and use it as a weapon against the other person to intentionally needle them. That's maybe where you've heard the term frenemy before, where it's kind of a situation where you have this almost mutually antagonistic relationship with the person where you're both trying to see if you can find the cracks in the armor, as Doc had said earlier. You're trying to find those weak spots to get that rise out of the person. Again, if you're making a joke and it's an inside joke, it's a running thing and over again that the person is not really going to get legitimately upset over it, that's fine. It's where you're trying, you're searching, you want to piss off that other person, you want to get them riled up. That's where it crosses the line. And that's where, as Doc was saying, it can get into that dangerous situation. Now, the one thing I would say is in response to something that you were saying earlier about reading the room. I think sometimes trolls have a very acutely honed sense to be able to read the room.
Right. That's
be able to read other person's emotions. And that in and of itself is a fantastic skill to have. But like all other skills, it can be used for good or it can be used for bad. It can be used for good. That person may be the type of person who can really be good at giving somebody a good gift because they know the kind of emotional reaction that a particular gift is going to give to somebody. Or they can say, oh, okay, I know this person's really sensitive about their hair, so I'm going to make comments about it, or the size of their nose, so I'm going to call them Gonzo or Toucan Sam. Again, it's just flashbacks coming back to me from 25 years ago. I'm over it. I swear I am. I swear. But that's why we can joke about it now. So again, it's all in how you present it and how it's used. It can be used for good or it can be used for bad. So similar along the lines of something that can be good or bad depending on the degree is the last issue. Discord desperately craves affection. He will deny it to his last breath. And his eyes may look yellow, but there's a lot of green there. And he gets real jealous if he thinks that he's not getting the attention and the affection that he thinks he deserves. And we saw that in the one with the Tree Hugger, where Fluttershy brought Tree Hugger to the gala, and he got real jealous and very upset and very much lashed out. And it ended up obviously causing a lot of problems at the gala with the schmooze, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yes. So.
All right. So I don't think there's a single person in the world that doesn't crave affection. So I don't even know what on earth you're talking about. Like, it's really not that big a deal. I mean, if you meet someone and you consider them to be someone you care about, then what's wrong with saying that they're the one person that you need to interact with and nobody else can interact with them? I mean, that won't cause any problems, right? I mean, if you completely isolate them from their other social circles and friend groups and things like that, because that way you can really make sure that you monopolize all of their focus. I mean, nothing could go wrong with that, right?
No, nothing.
It's totally okay.
That's a foolproof plan right there.
Yeah, it's totally okay that if you develop, even if it's a group of people and you develop the fact that they like you, you make sure that everything, to go back once again to the very first point of pride, that everything is going to center around you, and anything that doesn't gets cast away very quick. It doesn't sound cultish at all, right?
Nope.
No? Not at all? Okay. All right, cool.
Where's the sarcasm a little thick here?
Really? Really?
Just a titch.
Oh, okay. In that case, let me tone it down for the first time in my life, because I never have. This is going to be a little tough, so I'll recenter. If you are attention seeking to the point that you actually are desperate and feel like things are too emotional and you need to keep someone's attention, and some people do that even with things like self-harm, things like that, that is problematic. I'm not even making a joke about it. It is something that we know that people do sometimes when they feel like there's no other release, there's no alternative. So that actually is an example where it can go wrong, that if it's hidden, because often people will do things that they hope nobody else notices on one hand, but then we'll make sure it's right in the moment so that the person that they care about notices. I'll be honest, it's a form of manipulation. It's not the healthiest thing, but it is very common because sometimes people have gone numb from not having positive attention. A lot of times it's been only the negative, and that's not great either. But if it's all you know, you may try and recreate it subconsciously in future relationships.
If all you have is a hammer.
Yeah, everything looks like it now. That's true. So yeah, I'm not saying that affection and attention are bad things. We all should want it. We should want people in our lives that we can trust, that we care about, and go about our daily lives. It's wonderful. Until you make it at the expense of that person and your own existence. That's not good. That wasn't sarcastic, wasn't it? No? Okay. All right.
No, but again, to your point, and I think that the issue comes, attention and affection are related, but not necessarily the same thing.
Right.
But when you conflate them, when you assume that attention equals affection, that if someone is paying attention to me, they must care about me, because your perception is so skewed from your negative history, from trauma or childhood, whatever the case may be, and you assume that if someone's paying attention to me, that it equates to affection, that can be its own problem, because then all attention is good attention and all attention becomes love. So you will go to whatever lengths you need to for your own survival internally, because that's what you need, and it becomes it becomes an addiction, essentially. It becomes an addictive drug that is hitting that dopamine spot in your brain to go, I'm getting the attention I want. I don't care how I'm going to get it, but it's what I need to survive. It's what I need to move on to the next day. And when it reaches that point, that's not healthy for you. And it's definitely not healthy for the people in your orbit around in your circle, because they are also suffering because of your skewed perception. So that's why we suggested, we'll get into treatment in just a sec, but attention is not affection. They are related, but they are very different things. So speaking of treatment, as we said, we always start off treatment discussing in-universe first and foremost. We got a picture here of Discord split in half, and he's essentially talking to himself. Here's Discord consulting with an expert on Discord.
So we had discussed what we were doing in the episode, but we almost never discuss treatment ahead of time, so I can kind of ad-lib. I'm not going to lie. The scene that you just described, my thought wasn't this per se, but it's related. Usually, we know you don't feed the trolls. Well, I want to have fun with this. I think if you want to put someone in their place in this type of universe, the only way to beat a troll is with a bigger troll. I want to see someone that's more over the top, more outlandish, more impulsive, more random, chaotic. And I want that character to be so irritating and frustrating that Discord has to say, wow, this is too much for me. You got to tone it down. Because once a person, and I'll relate this, not because the real treatment really does it this way, it does not. But once a person is able to identify traits in other people, then that means that there's a possibility that they can identify those traits in themselves. And it's kind of good because in this case, it's the opposite of just a mirror man. It's a mirror and a hype man. And you know what that reference is ripping off of.
I sure do. That's really interesting that you say that. I question, not to try and steal your thunder or anything, I question whether that would ultimately be effective. I certainly don't think it would be effective with maybe season 2 Discord, season 3 Discord. Maybe by the time season 8 rolls around, season 9, he's developed enough that he might understand that and not try to outdo it. But I think if, depending on where Discord is in his character development arc, if you try and introduce the bigger troll, that's just an invitation for him to escalate, because he's going to go, oh yeah, okay, now I got to turn it up to 11 because no one's going to be bigger than me, because it goes back to that pride thing at first.
Well, yeah, but then that just gives the opportunity then to create a bigger troll.
Yeah, positive feedback loops. Yeah, sure. There's no problem with that whatsoever.
I mean, look, at worst, you just end up with everything completely falling apart, right? Is that really that bad?
So,
yeah, okay.
So treatment out of universe, then. Obviously, we're not dealing with, there are no real draconequuses. There's no one who's been imprisoned in stone for 1,000 years. But I think we've all dealt with people who are prideful trolls who are wounded underneath and are desperately craving affection and attention. So, not like I know anything about dealing with this personally.
So let me tell you about my interactions with my own doctors that have counseled me in the past. That's a joke, people. Don't get me wrong. Doctors have doctors. I'm not denying that. No, but what I'm getting at is, especially I'm going to focus on the troll section of it, because that's a worldview. And it can come from two really different mindsets. One can be that the world itself is unfair, and the only way I can create fairness is to level the playing field. Basically, what I'm talking about is gamification. It's the idea that, what game are you playing? Are you playing where everyone already knows the rules, but the deck was stacked against you and you're trying to level it? Okay, fair enough. You're dealing with the concept of injustice, and there are plenty of cognitive behavioral techniques that can deal with that. If you think that the world is completely random and there is no meaning and no purpose, and all you're doing is constantly re-rolling the dice, then that's actually a bit more problematic, because now I have to find what your underlying meaning is, because that doesn't exist. That's a myth. There's always something underneath everything. And now it's the counselor or therapist job to figure out what that is. Does that come from previous encounters or behaviors that you learned as a child? Is that something that you did as a defense mechanism, perhaps even dissociation, like to say that I'm just not going to be on everyone else's level. I have to create something for myself. And that's completely different because depending on the severity of that can require certain types of medication. And we're not even talking about the emotions behind all of this. If you're doing this and you're actually getting enjoyment while other people are suffering, then the very first point is, let's make sure that the people that are suffering are taken care of. And this person needs to learn a quick lesson in what the consequences are of their actions. And I don't mean like punishment. I'm just saying they may need some time for themselves to really start to get this figured out with people that are going to dedicate their time to them. Or if it's a situation where the person themselves actually has significant emotional trauma and they're constantly depressed, or they're dealing with a lot of anxiety and talking to people in a way that, or interacting with people in a way that's going to create a tension, but doesn't ever have to deal with the underlying emotional things that are going on beneath them, then that's a completely different thing. Anybody want to see me tap dance on the table? No? Okay. By the way, that's the thing. We're both self-aware enough that sometimes these things do come up about ourselves. But the point is, this is not something that's going to be simple. It's not something that's going to be easy. But when people actually start recognizing this stuff and start feeling better and confident about themselves enough that they don't have to want to show it off, it's incredibly rewarding because they don't usually say it's the positive feedback when they talk to you. They point out, wow, my spouse or my significant other has been so great to me recently, and I don't know why. Wow, I just got invited to things that I hadn't been invited to in a long time. And they said, well, you look good or you're doing great, and I don't know why. It's like, hey, it turns out society isn't as bad as you thought it was. And it's incredibly rewarding to see when it works.
Yeah, definitely. If you're putting in the work on your own, if you're putting in the work internally and you're doing self-betterment, it should, I say should, result in a better overall effect because that's going to ripple out to your external circle. It's going to ripple out to the people in your personal orbit, friends, family, coworkers, whomever that may be. I say should because unfortunately that doesn't always necessarily result in that. But if you're doing the work and it shows and you feel it, other people are going to feel it too. And that's kind of one of the things we've been talking about on the show for the past 6.5 years. If you do the work, it pays off.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. It's almost like friendship is sorcery or something.
Yeah, there should be a term for that. I'm not clever enough to come up with it. So having said all of that, let's now find out what would happen if we get Discord on Dr. Issues' couch. So now this is the part where I'm going to try to do my best, John de Lancie. I apologize in advance, but we'll see how this kind of all goes. So Doc, go whenever you're ready.
All right. Hello, Discord. I'm Dr. Issues.
You're not exactly a bastion of magic, are you?
And we're off to a great start. Just so you know, I did my best to magic-proof this office because I don't want any shenanigans.
Oh, did you now? It doesn't matter anyway. It's not like you're part of the important spheres anyway. So, which one put you up to this? Celestia? Luna? And this doesn't seem like Twilight's doing. And if Fluttershy was involved, she would have told me. We're best friends, you know. Not like I imagined someone like you would know anything about that.
Is there a point to belittling a person that's paid to help you instead of doing something, fun?
Oh, so you do have a spine. I have to push buttons sometimes. Gets the creative juices flowing.
Well, really, all you have to do is look in the mirror for that.
Doctors are supposed to be comforting, not mocking their patients. Besides, last time I checked, my Mirror of Mayhem didn't exactly end well for some ponies.
You started it.
What are you, 8 years old? I've eaten cheese with more maturity than you.
Hey, I look young for my age, but maybe you can't gauge the age of humans due to your vast experience. Well, I'm not being sarcastic when I say this, but what do you do?
What do I do? I'm Discord. I'm chaos incarnate, the essence of entropy, the clown prince.
That's taken by someone else, and I don't want to deal with that right now, although parts of you do remind me of former patients.
Oh, don't worry. This is just a little lark for me. An intermission before the next extravaganza I have planned. Oh, it's going to be so much fun with lots of decorations and fireballs. And, I got this music playing that's actually just the screaming of my enemies. And it will make everyone pay attention until they go, oh, Discord, you're so amazing. And I'm like, I know, right? Sit tight. Just let me get the popcorn.
You don't actually seek feedback much, do you?
Well, who needs feedback when I'm my own best judgment of entertainment?
And you wonder why people complain sometimes? Like, every time?
Oh, quitters never get ahead. But you can have mine on a platter if you'd like.
Ew. Now you're just a headless horse dragon? I don't know. Your visual nature kind of throws off my usual wit.
Oh, you're a fool if you think you can match my wit, my charm, my style, my flair, my je ne sais quoi.
I'm not trying to match anything. I'm trying to compliment you.
Oh, well, that sounds simple enough. Tell me how wonderful I am. Please, don't leave anything out.
Is that all you think treatment is? Like just a shower of praise?
If the horseshoe fits.
You don't wear shoes.
Some psychiatrist you turned out to be. Can't even be friendly with someone who has the ultimate friends in the universe.
Look, I'm trying really hard to be your psychiatrist. Let's get this straight. I'm not your friend. I'm meant to be just off the path of your relationships. I'm supposed to point out your blind spots so that you can improve them. I'm intentionally looking to challenge your status quo so that you can be a better version of yourself. You think being encased in stone is lonely? Try being alone when everyone is right next to you because they tolerate you instead of wanting to engage you. That's what's in your future if you don't learn to temper your impulses. And I don't need magic to see that.
Well, that's not true. There was that time that they turned on me for that, but then they threatened to banish me, but then I turned it around, and then they wouldn't look at me for a week after that. And such party poopers, the lot of you. Wait, did you say I could be better?
Yes, I
can be better. Oh, the best better friend. You can do that for me?
I may regret saying this, but maybe?
Oh, goody. This will be so much fun. A very important question. How do you feel about chocolate rain? So, obviously, that was for entertainment purposes. We're certainly not going to assume that anything that occurs on the couch in these sort of skits has any necessarily bearing in reality or exactly how a treatment session would look like with a real person. But again, it's all about fun. So
yeah, I swear to you, as a doctor, actually, I'm not a jerk. That's purely for the entertainment purposes.
No, in real life, he's just a jerk. Not. I joke. I say that. So before we wrap things up, we just want to point out we are available on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I refuse to call it X, and Threads at Capes on the Couch. If you have questions or anything, you can email us at capesonthecouch@gmail.com. Our website is capesonthecouch.com. And so now, because we have a little bit of time left, I want to open this up to any questions. If anybody has any questions about Discord from an episode, or your thoughts about the character, or anything that perhaps maybe you want us to discuss or talk about. Yep. All right. Go. You go ahead first. Yep. Saw you. First audience question. How long have you been a brony for?
It's funny because I forgot how it even came up that you recognized that. I think I mentioned something over the phone. This was like, I don't know, 2013, something. I don't know. But it's been a while.
Yeah. I don't even remember how I got started on it either. I just remember reading. I mean, because I knew My Little Pony from when I was a kid. We're in our 40s, not to age us too terribly, but I mean, we remember OG Gen 1 My Little Pony. And so when Friendship is Magic came out, and I started seeing things about, it's this fantastic show. And I kind of initially had the response of, yeah, okay. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, damn, I'm really going to enjoy this, aren't I? And then I got hooked and I got
I don't remember. I'll be very honest. I don't remember if it was you, but it was or some other person. It might have been somebody I worked with, because there's one other brony that I knew. I think I said something like, yeah, that's quite the rarity. And they're like, are you? I'm like, okay. I didn't want to admit it at the time. So, it's, yeah. I don't talk much about any of my fandoms, and I have a lot of them. So thank you for asking, though. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And now my son, he's 5, and my daughter's 2, and they really like Gen 5, which I enjoy. It's fun, but I'm trying to get them into the Friendship is Magic, and they're like, no, I don't want to see that one.
I was going to say, because I want to get to more questions, but I will say I actually learned something I didn't know, because when I said we were doing this panel and we were coming to DerpyCon, I have a special guest here. and I found out that my daughter knew more than I realized. So it's amazing what you find out when you admit it.
All right, next question. We're over here.
Second audience question. This isn't as big of an issue for a lot of people as it may be now, but I was a brony for a while and I fell off and now I'm starting to get back into it. I've been telling my friends lately that I really like it. And the other day in a group chat, some of them were saying how they hate bronies. It wasn't meant towards me, but they said that these people shouldn't exist. And as someone who's kind of been on and off, it really hurt. And I'm not sure how to approach that. Part of me feels like I should distance myself from them and try to find new friends where I can be myself. But another part of me feels like I should confront them on it and say, hey, listen, I know this isn't your thing and I'm not trying to be in your face about it, but I don't appreciate all the jokes and comments. Do you have any suggestions on how to handle that?
That actually, the way you just described it, that's a wonderful way to approach it, because sometimes it's intentional. I'll admit, there are some people that literally are trying to focus on certain people that they don't want to associate with, and they're announcing it. They're broadcasting it as loud as they can. In which case, you know what? If they've identified you, it's like, okay, got to go the other way, got to cut loose. Having said that, sometimes, and by the way, anything that I say to anyone here, I'll admit I may be just as guilty of on one side or the other. I may have also been a victim. So sometimes people don't recognize the magnitude that they're bringing a certain discussion. It doesn't just have to be about bronies. It could be any particular topic that someone may have a strong opinion of. They may think that they're doing it for the sake of a joke or for attention. It goes back to the trolling thing. And don't recognize the pain that they're causing. So someone that actually knows them, identifying that pain for them can clue them in, and they may get better resolution. The thing that I'll add to that, though, is it's not one person's responsibility to make sure that other people learn everything and get that level of awareness. You don't have to cause yourself more pain to do that. If it is going to cause intense pain for you, then no, I would not recommend that. If it's a situation where the person is more open than they first said, okay, that might be worth pursuing. But like I said, I don't think, following pain with more pain is the way to go. So that was a great point, though. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, first off, I'm sorry you're dealing with that. Yes, to Doc's point, it's not your responsibility to educate them. It's not the purpose of any one of us to teach the other person. However, it depends on, it's one of those things you have to read the room. Getting back to what we were talking about earlier, you have to read the room and find out. Just mention it again. Just kind of let it slip in there. Like, hey, how strong, how deep is that hate for bronies? Is it just like, screw them, whatever? Or is it like no, I desperately hate them? And you can, to Doc's point, you can take that and kind of apply it to any number of myriad other traits, both innate or not, in society. And we've seen that, unfortunately, over the past couple of years. It's not your job, but it comes down to how strong are these friends, how strong are these relationships, and how much are you willing to expose or hide of yourself to maintain them, which is, it's not always an easy question to ask. Easy thing. Yep. Over here.
Third audience question. Would Discord benefit from mood stabilizers?
All right, bad question. So in case people didn't hear it, do I think that Discord would benefit from being on mood stabilizers? I always hesitate to say specifics with medications only because these are characters and I don't automatically come with diagnosis. And we have done episodes where we have made it clear that characters have diagnoses. In terms of potential for impulsivity, for just taking the time sometimes to recognize what the consequences are of actions and things like that, I think that's a possibility. I think that anyone that's going through something where they're not willing to consider a different point of view, medications aren't going to change that. Therapy changes that. But if it's a matter of emotional dysregulation and the person is not willing to address those emotions through therapy, then medications such as mood stabilizers can be a benefit. So I apologize for the kind of non-answer with that. So yes, possibly, but I won't just automatically say yes. I would really want to get to know Discord like one-on-one before making a decision like that. And that is something I take pride in. I don't automatically just say, oh, yes, clearly this character needs this medication or something like that. I don't do that. But yeah, so it's a possibility based on the things that have been exhibited, but I wouldn't just automatically go to that.
Question in the back.
Fourth audience question. It's fascinating to me because, as I understand it, therapy can't change the way someone views something. But when it comes to medications and emotions, I'm sorry, I'm not really explaining myself fully.
It's okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it. And I can elaborate further based on what you're saying to me.
I guess what I'm trying to say is therapy only goes so far. sometimes you need medications to fully change.
Yeah. So just to, summarize for everyone else to elaborate further, it's like what I just said with the uses of medication versus the uses of therapy. Because of what I do for a living, it's similar to if you ask a carpenter with a hammer, everything looks like a nail, so I apologize. I admit my biases. But what I was getting at with that is there are certain things that are so significant in how a person is acting or how a person is responding that medication can help so that things kind of dim down a little bit and they're not doing things that are reckless or dangerous. That's one part. The other part of all of the things underlying it, whether it's the things that have happened in the past, the things that have led to why the person thinks the way they think, the trauma behind all of these things, that's stuff that I'll admit medication doesn't fix. And the way I say it sometimes to patients, and I do deal with these situations, I don't have a pill for homelessness. I don't have a pill for economic problems. And I certainly will never prescribe something and say, here, this is for the fact that you were totally abused as a child. Like, I will never ignore that. I'll never downplay that and say medication helps with that. But it is true. If a person has severe, for example, depression to the point that they can't get out of bed, if a person gets so angry that they're breaking objects left and right, if a person is on the other end, they're so elevated that they haven't slept for days and they don't realize the destruction that they're causing with their personal relationships because they're, I know there's young people, but hypersexualized as an example, then yes, medication can help with those things. So I don't want to make it sound like it's an all or nothing. It's usually a combination of things, and sometimes one side may take more precedent than the other. And it's the job of the professional, both if it's an individual therapist that doesn't prescribe medication or a psychiatrist that at this point is only focused on medication. It's always the job of the professional to help discern, along with the person's input, what might be the most beneficial.
It's all about the tools in the toolbox is what it comes down to. And we've talked about this numerous times on the show that therapy, medication, any number of things, they're all tools in the toolbox, and you want to use as many as are available, and you want to use them properly and effectively. And you don't want to ignore or disregard something just because for whatever reason. So it might just be a combination where, as you were saying, that the therapy can only go so far, medication can only go so far. You don't want to just say, I'm only going to do therapy or I'm only going to do medication. They can and usually should be kind of done in conjunction with each other to the extent that it's necessary, for the individual patient. But again, it's up to the analysis of the professional that's treating them. So, all right. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, folks, again. As we said, our podcast is called Capes on the Couch. We're available pretty much wherever you find podcasts except for Spotify. And if you like what you hear and you really want to support the show, we've got a Patreon you can subscribe. You can get additional content, early access. There's some uncensored material because our show generally is PG-13. But for the patrons, we kind of have some additional adult-centered material. And so this is being recorded, and it's basically going to be released whenever we can find a spot in the schedule. So thanks, everybody, so much for coming on out. And it was a great time here. We're Jersey born and raised. So, it's always nice to do a con in Jersey, and it's a fun character. And hopefully we'll be back next year. Maybe we'll do another My Little Pony character. Maybe we'll do something else. But again, thanks everybody for coming on out. Yep. We appreciate it. And I hope y'all have a great con.
Discord for discussion, not discord as in destruction. Thank you.
So that was Discord from My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. That happened to be our most well-attended panel that we've ever had. We had a room full of people, and it was very, very exciting. We are actually waiting to hear back from DerpyCon if we will be invited to return for 2025. We did submit an application for that. In the meantime, you can check out all of our shows wherever you find podcasts, except for Spotify. On social media, we are Capes on the Couch on Threads, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and even Blue Sky, which was added after the panel was recorded. Our website is capesonthecouch.com, and by the time this hits the main feed, we might even have some more outlets for our content. Who knows? It kind of depends on how much free time I have. In any case, for Doc Issues, I'm Anthony Sitko. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.